and TM6. Can I get a show of hands? By the way, you can comment in the chat or you can just speak up. Can I get a show of hands for how many people have a TM6? Sorry. Can I get a show of hands for how many people have a TM7 or have it on order? And how many people are trying to figure out which one they should buy?
Why did it start all
Any?
8 o'clock start, man.
Hiya. Hi guys, this is Jackie and thanks for joining me, and this is being live streamed on YouTube. I'm going to live stream it for part of this session, but at the end we're going to have a discussion, and we're going to I'm going to turn off the live stream because I want a private discussion so I can give you some private thoughts on this. All right. Okay. Can I, first of all, as I mentioned earlier, if you have a TM7 or you have one on order, let me know in the chat. Or if you're considering like which one to get, because the TM6 is still available for purchase for a few more days, and after that is off the market. And right now they've got this crazy special offer for the TM6. You can even send back your old TM31 and they'll give you a cashback on that as well, right? As well as like nearly $1,000 worth of freebies. Okay, so it's very, very compelling. Someone did actually send me an email asking my thoughts on which one they should get. You know, they had a TM31 and should they upgrade? The problem is when you upgrade with this current offer, you can only upgrade to a TM6. If you want the TM7, there's no upgrade offer available. There are no accessories, no bonuses, and not just that, you don't get it right away. There's no installment plan for the TM7. You have to pay up front, and then you go on a wait list. Okay, so there's a bunch of people already on the wait list, thousands of people on the wait list, and they're going to start shipping in June, I'm told. And, you know, obviously they'll first in best dress sort of thing. So if you're one of those people, I know at least one person here who's ordered a TM7, and I'm sure she'd like to see how it works. I only got mine delivered a couple of days ago, picked up a couple of days ago. So as a Thermomix consultant, by the skin of my teeth, I do have a TM7 here, and I've been playing around with it a little bit. And by the way, guys, just as a heads up, I scheduled this particular, Sophie Lynn's got a TM6, awesome. And Susan Duff is joining us, cool. Just as a heads up, I scheduled this forgetting that Paul wasn't going to be around today. And also Noah is around as well. Noah's my special needs child, okay? So he may be a little bit disruptive, and I may have to kind of like be all over the place. I can't really tell Paul, can you wash this up and whatever. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to really show you guys the TM6 next to the TM7. I don't know how much of it you've seen online, but I'm looking at this through the lens of someone who cooks a lot of Malaysian food, who loves my TM6 and also TM31 and 6. Oh, nice. And I heard a lot about the TM7, but until I got my hands on it and saw it in action, a lot of things didn't really quite gel, if you know what I mean. Okay, so just to give you a brief recap, right? The differences between the TM6 and TM7, and I know my Thermomixes are sitting in front of me, and I'm struggling to some extent to get the right camera angle to be able to capture what you can see up front, you know, on the display. But let me just try my best with this. So we've got one scene here. Okay, you guys can see this. Okay, I know it looks really dark. I'm not in fact operating from a dark basement. It's just because I have to have it dark for there not to be a reflection from the other side, for you to be able to see the writing on here, okay? So one thing that stood out for me with the TM7 was how big the screen was. I know they said it was going to be a big screen, but you see the screen here is practically like the size of a 10-inch tablet, right? It is the size of a 10-inch tablet. It's like having a big 10-inch tablet attached to the front of your Thermomix. Now, you don't really appreciate it until you compare it to the TM6. Okay, so that's the TM6 to my left and the TM7 to my right. Okay, the other thing that took me a little bit to get used to, the TM6 has this dial, right? And these three touchscreen dials here, one to manage the time, and one to manage the temperature, and one to manage the speed of the blending, okay? Whereas the TM7, if you can see it here, and again, like I said, just excuse me because I'm struggling with this connection here and trying to get it to show up properly. When you get your TM7, what you're going to find is that you have the option to configure, whoops, did this go into, okay, it looks like my, let me just change this. My phone has just automatically rebooted itself. I knew it was going to happen, right? Anything that's going to be require external input is going to struggle. Okay, let me just try and see if I can use this backup camera. Okay, here we go. There's a little webcam. Let's have a look. Okay, like I said, my struggle with this is really to try and get a clear capture. Okay, so with the TM7, when you boot up, you can actually configure the layout of your homepage. Okay, so some of the things that I noticed right away. Okay, you see what I mean? It's going white here. The TM7, you can actually select. Okay, let's forget about that, and let's get you to talk to my face here. Okay, the TM7 allows you to select how you want to do the layout of your home screen. Okay, maybe you want to set it up so that it's got all your favorite recipes when you start up, maybe all your favorite functions to start up. Okay, and also like your recently cooked, which is what I've got, or you can also pull in from Cookie Do what's trending now. And I don't know if you noticed, while my phone continues to boot up and hopefully behave, I don't know if you noticed, but the screen is a lot more vibrant. Okay, let me just turn this on compared to the TM6. Okay, now I found it a little bit, I found that I needed to get used to the fact that there's actually no dial. Okay, here we go. Let's try again. Fingers crossed. Let me just close that off. And let's see if I can get this back up. Okay, here we go. And move this over here. Okay, so you can, everything is touch screen. Okay, so not having the dial to turn on the settings felt a little bit weird to start with, right? So let's go over here, and these are all the settings here. What I was particularly interested in was the browning mode. Okay, so this is the browning mode, and this is what it looks like. And look, first of all, I'll just quickly talk through the differences between the TM7 and the TM6. Right, so first of all, apart from a big giant screen, the design is very different. You see it next to each other. Okay, it looks completely different, and some people thought, no, I like the old design better, sort of thing. But I think the new, because we're going to actually do a side-by-side comparison of cooking one of my created recipes on air. Okay, you see all these settings here. Okay, so these are all the different functions. So we've got the browning mode, which is new to Thermomix TM7. They've got an open cooking mode, okay, which means you can actually cook without the lid on. Okay, let me just move my giant head out of the way. Okay, so you see this is open cooking, which means no lid. Okay, and you notice what happened when I took the lid off? It recognized that I've taken the lid off. So it's quite clever. Okay, and with the open cooking mode, like I said, you can cook it without a lid, but there are some caveats. We'll go into that. And then one of the big selling points, which at the time did not mean much to me, was the fact that it's quiet. Okay, because when I was told about its quiet motor, I was told that it's quiet up until speed 2. Okay, I'm thinking, but I use it on speed 10 and whatever to blitz like really tough nuts and whatever into flour. So what use is that to me? But I will show you a demo, a pre-recorded clip of something that we made. Okay, let me have a look. There's more people joining us. Admit, and admit. Okay, step 1. TM31.6. Okay, by the way, if you've got any questions, just hit me up and let me know. And for those who've just joined us, like I mentioned before, I'm actually live streaming part of this session onto YouTube. So if you don't want your face on camera, just turn your video off. If you don't have a problem with it, by all means, leave it on, okay? And if you've got any questions, just hit me with them. You can unmute your microphone and ask me a question, or you can post the questions in the chat. Are the jug the same size? Yes, they are. They look like a different size. Okay, as you can see, the TM7 jug looks bigger. Let me grab this. Okay, here you go. The TM7 jug looks bigger and wider, but that's because it's got this casing around it. Okay, and I'll show you what it looks like inside here. Okay, so the inner jug is actually the same capacity, even though it looks bigger. What is bigger is the steamer basket, which I haven't even opened out of the case yet. Okay, so this is the steamer basket. Let me just open it up now and show you. And I am told it's, I don't know, X number percentage bigger. Okay, now, for those of you who've done Asian cooking, TM7 is quite slimline. It is actually. Those of you who've done like steaming, right? If you use your Thermomix for Asian cooking, I know the frustration with some Asians who cook a lot of Asian food when it comes to the Thermomix is the fact that it feels like it's not really designed for Asian cooking. It's almost like an afterthought, you know. If it works in some Asian, Malaysian recipes, it's like, yay, okay, bonus. But it's like a lot of the things that it does, the cookie dough recipes and that sort of stuff, don't really seem to be geared towards Asian cooking. But that's where I come in. Okay, that's where I try and pull it apart and see what we can do with it. Okay, this is the old Varoma. That's the TM6, TM5 Varoma steamer basket. And this is the new one, the TM7. Okay, so it's a different shape. It's rectangular, and also apparently it's got more holes. Apparently it allows the steam to come through better. Okay, so that's one thing. Haven't tried it yet, but I'll report back when I do. The second layer steamer basket in particular, steamer tray in particular, is quite impressive. I think the shape would be more conducive to us being able to steam like some Asian quays and some like fish and vegetables and all that sort of stuff, right? So it looks promising. I haven't tried it myself, okay? But I am told that it's more efficient in steaming because I don't know, like I said, if you've done any Asian steaming, just let me know in your comments what you think about the TM6 when it comes to steaming, okay? I personally do not really use this for steaming because I have more efficient ways of steaming without using the Thermomix, okay? I'm saying this as someone who is a big fan of the TM6, okay? The other thing that surprised me about the Thermomix TM7, you guys know when you tackle my Malaysian recipes, right? A lot of the time I talk about sauteing the rempah, the sauteing the spice paste, and I always say, okay, if you read my recipes, a lot of it says at some point when you're sauteing, you replace the measuring cup with the splash guard or the simmer basket, okay? The idea being that you allow the steam to escape so that when you're sauteing something, you're not kind of like creating like this kind of like a closed system where the steam ends up back in the fried paste and end up like never actually like drying out. Okay, so I always say replace it with this sort of stuff and back and forth. You know what, I was really surprised about the TM7, it is that it doesn't come with this. So this does not exist in the TM7 world. Okay, and their reason is that the new lid, if you can see it, okay, is designed a little bit different. The new lid allows the steam to escape through the vents, and I've done cooking without actually putting this on. Okay, so the steam comes through without you needing to worry about a splatter guard because it won't splatter. That's the idea. Okay, does that make sense to everyone? Any questions so far? Okay, so these are some of my own discoveries about the TM7. Now with the TM7, by the way, right, the way you release, they keep saying the way you release the bowl is by just pressing this lever. Okay, and I didn't realize, I thought it was to get the bowl wholesale out of this casing. Okay, so for those of you who have ordered your TM7, are expecting it, just be warned, when you release this here, you're not just releasing the inner thinger from the black casing, you're also releasing the blade at the bottom. Okay, and like I said, I did not know this until I made a mistake of, okay, when it releases, the blade comes off. Okay, and I actually was actually washing the Thermomix using the pre-clean like wash function. Thankfully it wasn't food, it was like just water, soapy water in there. I was just washing it after I had kneaded some dough in it. I unlatched it here and all the water came out down the bottom. Okay, so just be careful. You do need to keep the latch on until you've emptied everything. And the latch removal actually also removes the thinger down the bottom, the blade. Okay, and I'm also told apparently the TM7 blade is the same as the TM6 blade. So apparently they're interchangeable. So that's one thing that's interchangeable. What else is there? Okay, now what really, like I said, you know, a lot of people made a big deal about the fact that the motor is silent, right? Up until speed 2. Let me just actually show you something here. Okay, let me, does anyone use the Thermomix for cooking rice? You know, using the splashing method? Let me know if you do. But let me actually just show you, because Noah loves eating rice cooked with the Thermomix, and Paul would make him rice every morning in the TM6. And I don't know if there's a good way to replicate the sound. Okay, by the way, usually when I run my Zoom sessions, my Zoom audio is automatically optimized to cut down on background noise. Okay, I'm deliberately leaving the background noise on, okay, so that you can capture all the sound that goes on when it's operating, so you can do a comparison. Okay, so here we go. So when we're cooking rice, this is what happens. Okay, for those of you who don't know. Okay, let's have a look at a TM6. When you're cooking rice, you set the time for, like, say, like 19 minutes. Okay, just pretend that's 19 minutes, and then you set the temperature. Paul sets it at 105 degrees, and then he sets the speed. There's Paul's own optimized setting for cooking rice. Okay, so 19 minutes at 105 degrees at speed 4.5. Okay, this actually feels quite not as noisy as it would be if it had rice in it. But the point I'm saying is that it is quite noisy in the morning, because Paul starts cooking rice at 6 in the morning, and I'm like hearing this going every morning, and it's slightly irritating. Okay, so let me just share a video we recorded of cooking rice in the TM7. Okay. Now, this may not be the best example of it because, unfortunately, like I said, the it doesn't actually convey the noise properly because it doesn't have rice in it. With the rice, it would basically, you hear it splashing against the rice, so there'll be some friction there. You know what I mean? Okay, downloads. Here we go. Okay, so there's a video I recorded like just about an hour or so ago when Paul made some rice. That's why I'm not cooking another batch of rice in the TM6. We're going to end up with too much rice in the house. Okay, so this is how it goes in the TM7. Okay, unsupported format. How wonderful is that? It will not play it. Why is it unsupported? Let me have a look. Sorry about that. Downloads. Okay, it's an MP4. It should be supported. Why is it not supported? Okay. Try a different file. Let me just rename it. Okay, rice. Okay, let's try it again. I play MP4 files all the time. Okay, it does not like it. Okay, let me just see if I can just do a screen share on my. Okay, let me just try and do it this way. There's a screen share from my Google Photos album. Okay, I don't know if it's actually a particularly, oops, is this sharing the right let me just stop the share. Okay, let me just try again. Screen share. Google Chrome application. This Google Chrome, right? Share. Okay. Are you guys seeing the video here? Let me just play it here. That's Paul's hand, by the way, not mine. That's Noah in the background as well. Okay. I hope you guys are watching the right screen. Okay, so this is how you would actually set the Thermomix. Okay, remember how with the previous one, there are 3 separate dials. With this one, you're actually doing everything on the one screen, and you see on the right hand side, that's a picture of the scales. So it automatically weighs things for you, okay? Okay, did that give you enough of an idea? Just let me go back to my main screen. Did that give you some kind of an idea? I know it's not a perfect kind of a comparison, but it does sound noticeably different, okay? And I noticed that the sound actually settles after a while as well. So it doesn't sound as, well, grating is probably not a good word. It doesn't sound quite as irritating as the TM6 when it's cooking rice. That's my personal opinion. Okay, and Paul seems to think that rice turns out a little bit better, though in theory it should be the same. Okay, so as far as cooking the same recipes, it is pretty much a like for like, right? That's what we're told. But the functionality, how you do it, is a little bit different. Okay, the other thing, does anyone have any questions so far? No? Let me just go back to the other screen. I'm going to show you some of the okay, so that's the sound. When you're cooking it on speed 2 or lower, and a lot of your cookie dough recipes and a lot of your stirring cooking and stuff like that will be speed 2 and lower. Okay, so if you're stirring some pasta or some curry or whatever, it is practically silent. Okay, let me just show it to you. See, I don't know if I can capture the sound very well here. Okay, let's go. Okay, let's go manual mode. Okay, let's set for 1 minute at, like, say 110 degrees, and speed Okay, speed. Speed 2, okay? And then just press start. I've got some plastic over here if you're wondering what that noise was. Can you hear anything? Can you hear anything? Anyone? No, nothing, right? So you see what I mean? It is so silent, I can't hear it. Okay, that's really impressive. So if you're cooking something and it's stirring away for like, you know, for like an hour or whatever, you won't hear it. Okay, you won't know. In fact, it's so quiet, it's almost disconcerting. Okay, let me just stop this. Okay, now I want to show you doing a recipe from, sorry, I'm losing. Okay, back here. Okay, so let me show you the difference in terms of like navigating the screen, right? When you're following the exact same recipe. Okay, let me just go here and we're going to go to, is it here? Okay, my recipes, okay? So my created recipes. Okay, so we've got all these recipes that are in my own library. These are not Cookie Do recipes. These are recipes I created on Cookie Do. And look, why don't we go to make curry puff dough? Because I actually need to make some. I'm killing two birds with one stone here. Okay, so this is what it would look like on the TM7. Let's go to the TM6 over here. Let me just try and position the screen a little bit so you can see what we're doing. Okay, let me go TM my recipes, created recipes. Okay, you see it's a little bit less fast. Okay, curry puff dough. Okay. Okay, so what I did find, and it may be just my imagination, was that the TM7 boots up faster. It connects to my internet faster, and I know because the every time I turn on the Thermomix and I try and navigate to my recipe, it says, "Oh, cookie do not connected yet," and stuff like that. So I always have to wait around for, you know, for seconds, which actually mean a lot to me because I'm super impatient. Okay, so you see these two screens here. Okay, I click on start cooking here. Okay, this is what it looks like. 500 grams plain flour, and I press this, okay? And it brings up the scales, 500 grams. Okay, on the TM7, okay, this is just to give you guys an idea, okay? So curry puff dough, start, okay? Same thing, enjoy cooking your created recipe. Okay, so it's got 500 grams plain flour, 500 grams plain flour. It looks the same, right? Let's chuck in some flour. And of course I need to get some, hang on a sec. Okay, let me just remove the lid here. You notice I removed the lid and it still said 0, okay? Usually with this, you would need to tear it, okay? So when, you know, like if you left the lid on when it was going and then you remove the lid, it would be minus 300 something. Is that right for those of you who use this function? Okay, anyway, so let's just, sorry about this. Let's just add some flour in here, 500 grams. Look, it's going to produce the same results, but I just wanted to let you see in terms of the operation, like how it's different, okay? Okay, that's close enough. Whereas on here, same thing. Okay, so 501, close enough. Okay, so with here, you have to close this here and then go next, right? Here, you can take it off and next. Okay, 250 grams water. There's 250 grams water. Again, this. Okay. Okay, so that's close enough. And here, 250 grams water. Okay, and then you close this here. And next, 1 teaspoon of salt. Okay, so I can close that. Next, 1 teaspoon salt. Okay, next, 1 teaspoon lemon juice. I actually use lemon powder nowadays. Okay, so, okay. Next, 70 grams oil. Next, you don't actually have to tick the box. It's just for you to keep track of like where you're at, right? So 70 grams oil. Okay. Okay. And here. Okay, next. Okay, it says knead for 3 minutes. Okay, let me start the TM7 one first. And you just press that. Okay, it's telling me to put the lid on properly, so it notices the lid's not on properly. Okay. Can you hear this?
Yes.
A little bit, right? Okay, so with this one here, dough 3 minutes. Okay, so put the lid on and then you got to turn the dial here, okay? You notice the difference in noise? Big difference, right? Okay, let me just go back here. Okay, let me just go back to my screen so you're not staring at this and counting down. And look at my wonderful faces there. Okay, so you see like some of the differences, okay? Some of them are small differences and some are fairly noticeable differences. The other thing I want to mention, by the way, this is sitting on an unstable surface. So if you see the wobble, it's not the machine, it's me actually, because I've got like a sheet of metal sitting lining an uneven surface here. But speaking of surfaces, by the way, the TM6, if you choose to take advantage of the current offer, comes with the glider board underneath, right? Which usually costs over $100. The TM7 doesn't come with any bonuses, but with regards to the glider board, the TM7 actually has a built-in glider board, okay? So you don't actually need to buy a separate glider board for it, just for your information, okay? The next thing I want to show you is the fact that, let me just move this. Like I say, it's actually sitting on a surface that's not actually even. the next thing I want to show you is actually the open cooking function. Okay, so let me just go back to my screen here. Medium front. Okay. It's slightly disconcerting how wobbly it is. But like I said, it's because I've got like this sheet of metal that's covering over a bulky surface, so it's actually on an incline here. Does anyone have any questions so far? I'm just gonna let this finish the dough mixing mode because, like I said, I need the dough for my curry puffs. Okay, let me just. Okay, this is the sound of it being done. Let me just go back to the screen so you can see how it looks. Okay, so when it's done, you just press that. It's done, okay? And this one still has 30 seconds to go. Let's have a look. And this is the dough, okay? The dough that I use for my curry puffs. Okay, just to give you an idea. Let me just put this in something. Okay, so the results should be the same. Okay, same recipe should produce same results. Okay, and for the record, because I know people get very confused because they're used to actually, how would you say it? They're used to dusting a lot of flour in their dough and stuff like that. Okay, I don't. So my curry puff dough, I don't dust it with flour or anything. Okay, only if for whatever reason I put way too much water do I lightly dust it with flour, but it should not be sticky or whatever. It's soft like this. And then here's the batch from the other machine. Same results, okay? Okay. Any questions so far, anyone? No? Let me just go white screen back. Okay, this is very, very wobbly. The camera is wobbly and all that. Any questions, anyone so far? Okay, so the next thing I want to show you is the open cooking mode. Okay, like I said, as far as the noise level, it's pretty impressive because it's a lot more silent. Okay, I didn't think it was going to be such a big deal for me because my place is generally noisy anyway, but I do, I thought like, oh, what's a little bit of noise, but I do kind of appreciate how quiet it is. Okay. The other thing I wanted to, is anybody joining us? No. Okay. The other thing I wanted to show you guys, like I said, is the open cooking mode because I was very, very curious as to how it works, right? By the way, is anyone considering upgrading to a TM7 from whatever else, or is anyone looking to buy the TM6? Because if you are, this will help make you help you to make an informed choice. Okay, so let me just go back down to the screen here. Okay, I'm not here, by the way. Yes, me, TM7 up. Oh, cool. Have you ordered yours already, or? Lavinia, are you in Australia, by the way? Not yet. Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, like I said, there are no deals happening with the TM7 at the moment. So the TM7, because it's a brand new product, you basically have to pay it in full. No bonuses, no trade-in offers, no installment plans. Hang on. So yeah, so guys, I was chilling. Wait, I love the TM. Yeah, the only caveat with the TM31 I should point out is it's no longer supported by Thermomix. So if anything breaks down, you need to send it for a service, or you need any parts to be replaced, you won't be able to get Thermomix to help you out with that. That's the main drawback about TM31, because it's been 10 years since they stopped selling the TM31, right? But yeah, so that's my dough here. Now, the open cooking mode. Here I was thinking, right, like I said, my big thing about the Thermomix is for me to be able to brown spice paste, okay? Because you know the TM31, my gripe about it was the fact that even though it could theoretically reach 100, TM6, theoretically it could reach temperatures of 160 degrees, you can only do it through their locked-in Thermomix cookie dough recipes, okay? So first of all, if you don't have cookie dough, you can't take advantage of the high temp cooking. Second of all, even if you do have cookie dough and you try and take advantage of the high temp cooking, you're locked into the amounts, okay? So there are cookie dough recipes for making crispy ikan bilis, for instance, but you're locked into the amount they dictate at 100 grams or something like that. You want to do 150 grams, too bad. It will tell you, sorry, you've put too much in, it's not going to work, okay? So that was a big source of annoyance for me. TM31, I love to open and look at what's cooking. You know what? Yeah, the TM6, I noticed, like now that I've got the TM7 does not have these locking mechanisms, okay? I think I've never played around with the TM31, but I think it's the same with the TM31. The TM6, in the middle of cooking, if you want to stop it, if it's on high temperature, it will count down from 20 seconds down to 0 before it unlocks the arms, okay? So every time you put the bowl on and you try and turn on something, it was locks in, or the arms are not in position, check your lid and whatever and stuff like that. So that's slightly, that slows me down a little bit, okay? So that's the TM6. The TM7 does not have that problem because you don't even need the lid, okay? So the TM7, like I said, has this open cooking function that I thought, great, I can actually just combine that with the fact that I can do the high temperature cooking, which on the TM7 is called the browning mode. Okay, there is a caveat, okay? Like I said, I'm not here to just kind of like pitch one over the other, but I was a little bit, shall we say, disappointed when I went to the, let me just change the screen. Here we go, back to this one here. Okay, so here, if I go into the settings for open cooking, okay, I thought, great, I can cook it on high temperature without being locked into their recipes, and I can have it with the lid off, right? No, you can't. It's too clever, okay? So there's still a little bit control-y. First of all, open cooking, right? You can set the time. Scroll, right? You can set minutes. You can set the temperature, but notice the temperature only goes up to 100 degrees, okay? Then it goes back down to 37. So you can't actually have high temperature cooking with the lid off, okay? You can only cook it at like 100 degrees. So to me, that's a little bit irritating, okay? I don't know if that might bother some of you. It bothers me as someone who cooks a lot of Malaysian cooking, because I like to actually see it stirring, right? I can eyeball it and say, okay, that's brown enough, I can stop it, right? No, you can't. And by the same token, let me just go to the, here we go, to the browning mode. Okay, that's a high temperature. Maximum temperature is 160 degrees. Browning mode, okay. So browning mode, I think it limits you how long you can brown it for. Okay, yeah, it limits you to 30 minutes, okay. So the longest you can actually saute something for is 30 minutes, okay. Presumably you can do multiples of 30 minutes. Temperature, maximum 160. And then you've got the option of gentle or intense, okay? Twice today, I used the intense setting. And you notice here, it wants you to put the lid on, okay? So when you're browning, the lid has to be on. Now that the lid's on, then this on button, like the arrow, comes on. If I remove the lid, like I'm doing now, see the arrow gets grayed out, okay? So you basically cannot do browning mode with the lid off, okay? And also the other thing is, what I did today was I tried to do some crispy fried onions, right? Crispy fried onions, you know, with the cookie dough recipe, you can do it on the TM6, but like I said, they limit you to, like, I don't know, 200 grams of onion, okay? So if you're like slicing onion and you've got 230 grams, it won't work. It's very irritating, okay? So you then have like some scraps of onion that you have to wait for the next batch and whatever else. And if it's too little, it won't work either. So it has to be pretty much exactly 200 grams, give or take 10% or something like that, right? So I thought, okay, let's do it here and let's do lots of onion. And I fried it for 25 minutes, which apparently I didn't check with cookie dough for the 200 gram batch of onion, which is the same time, okay? So frying 200 grams of onion in the cookie dough recipe using a TM6 is 25 minutes, okay? Whereas on the TM7, I added a lot more oil, added a lot more onion, which did not cause any problem. Like I said, with the TM6, if you put too much oil, it will recognize that you've got too much oil. It's very irritating. And I fried it for 25 minutes, and it was like, you know, when your onion isn't done enough, it was like soggy. It was caramelized and soggy. Still tasted nice because I like caramelized onion, right? And then I took that out and fried the next batch, this time, but just only a small amount, like maybe 100 grams or something. And I thought, well, that was 25 minutes and it was still like kind of like soggy. Let's do this batch at I think 15 or 20 minutes, and I ended up burning it. And the irritating thing was that I couldn't check, right? Because the lid was on. And of course, you can come over and check it, like, you know, and like every now and then to see how it's going. But I didn't. I thought, well, since the Thermomix is doing the cooking, you know, I should be able to go and have a cup of coffee. But the moral of the story is it has potential, okay? The browning mode has potential, but yeah, you basically have to time yourself how long it takes, how much, you know, to fry the whatever it is you're frying, and then just record it and maybe save it as a recipe or something like that. Okay, does that make sense to you? But yeah, you can't actually, I almost wish that maybe the TM8 will come up with a clear lid or something like that, or maybe somebody will come up with a clear lid so you can see what's going on, right? But yeah, that was one of my kind of like painful experiences with the browning mode so far. The other thing I wanted to mention with the browning mode was that it's so incredibly silent. You're thinking, is it actually doing anything? You know, is it actually stirring the stuff? Because I also tonight for dinner, I actually thought, oh, let's do some fried noodles for Noah, because Noah loves fried noodles, right? And I thought, because 160 degrees is still not that hot, but I was just doing a small amount of noodles, right? And the way I would fry noodles, just a simple fried noodle dish, was I added some minced garlic in with the oil, put it on browning mode for, like, you know, saute the garlic for 5 minutes, right? That's how everyone does their frying, like whatever, you do fried rice, fried noodles or something like that. You saute some garlic like for a couple of minutes, and no, it wouldn't work, because it says there's not enough stuff in your bowl, lady. And I went back and read the notes, and apparently for the browning mode to work, you have to have at least 100 grams of food stuff in there. Okay, so keep that in mind. You can't do it the way Asians do, like saute a bit of garlic for a couple of minutes and then add other stuff and whatever. It wants you to chuck everything in. So I ended up chucking the noodles in with the garlic and telling it to fry it on intense heat, and then I chucked some you know, some noodle sauce in there and let it fry, and it actually did a decent job of it. But at the end, I noticed there was a fair bit of browning on the bottom of the bowl, as it did when I actually tried to fry a lot of onion, okay? But once I put it through the pre-wash cycle, right, it still looked like it had a lot of stuff stuck at the bottom. But in fact, you just put a, put a stainless steel scourer very lightly over it and it all came off completely, okay? So don't worry if it looks like it's scorched or burnt or whatever. It comes off very, very easily, okay? Does that make sense, everyone? Yeah? Okay. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to point out as well is that my other recipe for kangkong belacan, which I'm trying to think if I should do it now. The other recipe for kangkong belacan, right, is, let me just go back here to the screen. Okay, so, okay, my kangkong belacan recipe here. Okay, so I just want to go through the steps with you. I'm not going to cook it because it's a little bit late at night to be cooking too much veggies. Okay, so I click start here. Kangkong belacan. Okay, same deal. Enjoy cooking your recipe. Maximum number one. Well, I don't know what it's talking about. Okay, so let's go start. Enjoy next. Choose a recipe while cooking center before opening a new one. Why does it think I've opened another recipe? Never seen that before. Okay. See, I'm discovering stuff as you go as well. Okay. Oh, you know what? I think maybe I didn't finish cooking this. Do you think? Maybe that's it? Nope, that's not it. Okay, start. Next. Close the recipe via cooking center before opening a new one. Where's the cooking center? Where's the cooking center? Let's try it one last time. Okay, no, it does not like it. So I don't know what's going on. But what I wanted to show you guys was the fact that but part of the steps of my cooking using guided cooking was that let me show it to you on my TM6 that's not going to complain about. I'm going to have to go away and research what that error meant. Okay, so let's go back to this time to the screen on the TM6. Okay, same thing, kangkong belacan. Okay, so I go start cooking here and same thing. Okay, so I've got all these ingredients, 15 grams dried shrimp, blend, blah, blah, blah. So the way you would do it, you would click on here and tear, add in 15 grams of dried shrimp. It will weigh it out for you. And then I'll click on here and it's preset it to 2 seconds at speed 6, okay? And then it will blitz it for you, but I have to turn the dial. Here with the TM7, I don't have to turn the dial. Add this, add that, add the garlic, add the chili, add the belacan, and then blitz it again. And then the next step, add oil. And then it says, replace measuring cup with splatter guard. Remember how I mentioned I like to do that. And then cook for 5 minutes at speed 120, reverse, stir. Okay, so it's preset 5 degrees, 120, 5 minutes, 120 degrees, reverse stir. Okay, so it's gonna do that. And I figured, like with the TM7, if I can cook it on high temperature, how about if I just change the temperature? Imagine, pretend this is the TM7, crank it up to 160. It will not let you, okay? You basically have to reprogram. You have to create a separate recipe that actually dictates for you to go into browning mode. I'm presuming, I haven't tried it yet, for you to actually go into browning mode and actually fry it for 5 minutes on reverse stir at 160 degrees. Does that make sense to you? So basically, what I'm saying is that browning mode does not like give you free rein to just crank the temperature to 160 degrees. Okay, you can't. You have to actually go into that particular mode and then use that. Okay, let me actually just turn off this TM7 because I'm very irritated by the fact that it said that I reached my capacity. Okay, anyone have any questions so far? Any thoughts about the TM7? Any, what do you think is the most impressive feature so far? Nothing. Carol, what do you think? Carol's the proud owner of TM31 and TM6. Has what I shown you given you any interest in the TM7?
I want, but I don't want to spend the money.
but I don't.
You see the potential, yeah? It's a little bit of a tough call. Like I said, the silent feature actually has impressed me more than I thought it would. The browning mode, I'm a little bit conflicted about. The open lid cooking thing, I'm like, I don't even know what the deal is with that. 100 degrees at, I guess, you know, if you're boiling some dumplings or whatever, that will actually come in handy. As far as sauteing stuff and all that, I don't know. Like 100 degrees to me is not a hot enough temperature for you to do any open cooking in, you know. It's quite funny because in our Thermomix consultant training, they use a particular recipe that usually would not have called for open lid cooking, but they decided to change the recipe. I love my TM31. Everybody does, you know. Like I said, somebody asked me today, they have a friend who's got a TM31, very keen to upgrade, and they don't know if they want a TM6 or TM7. And I told them, like, if you want the TM7, you can't actually upgrade. You have to buy it outright. But the fact is, TM31 is very popular, especially among restaurant owners like Carol, because it's very versatile. So she might be able to sell it herself, you know, off market and get a better price for it. But to be fair, they're offering 680 Aussie dollars off your TM6 if you send back your TM31. So that's actually a very good deal. Okay, I'm going to go back in here and check if I can now go into the kangkong belacan recipe on the TM7 because it really annoyed me. Next. Okay, so it opened up. I don't know what the deal was about it having like too many recipes open because it said go to the cooking center, but yeah, it's working fine now. But yeah, let me just quickly change the screen here for you so you can have a look. Okay, that's a TM6. So TM7, and for the record, guys, like I said, this is actually one of my own recipes that I programmed. Oops, here we go. That is what happens when you use a third-party app. It's so finicky. Okay, let's just forget about that. Let me go back to this one here. Okay. Okay, so you see that? 15 grams, and then it's, oh, this does not show up properly. Okay, so 15 grams, 2 seconds, speed 6. Okay, so it just does everything a little bit more efficiently. Let me go back to my front screen, and let me just remove this, and here we go. It's back on. Okay, so yeah, it's I have two TM31 Yeah, I know, right? But like I said, you know, having like mentioned the whole like out of warranty thing and stuff like that, the truth of the matter is the Thermomixes don't really break down. I mean, I've never had mine actually break down per se. I don't know if anyone else had any problems. How much is the TM7? The TM7 in Australia is it's a good question, 26.49? 26 something? Let me have a look. It's only like 80 bucks more than the TM6. It's not like, you know, yeah, 26.49 for the TM7 and 25.79 for the TM6, but the TM6 is Thermomix anymore. Okay, so the TM6 right now, 25.79, you get over $1,000 worth of freebies. And if you're trading in something and you've got 3 options in terms of trade-ins, then the freebies, I don't know, they remove one of them, it becomes like $920 odd of freebies. But when you trade in, you can trade in like an old hand mixer or whatever, they'll give you $100 back. If you've got an old major appliance, something that market value was $380 up and above when you bought it, say like a dough mixer or something, even if it's old or whatever, if the original price was more than $380, you can send it in and they will give you $380 off your TM6. Okay, if you've got an old Thermomix or whatever model, they will give you $680 off the price of a TM6. Okay, so I'm looking for a technician to repair my TM31 if if there's anything wrong with it. Yeah, that might be a good gig actually, right? That's true. That is true. Truth be told, in the past, I've thought about like, because I'm actually like, my background is in IT. Truth be told, in the past, I've thought, oh, I wonder if there's some way I can hack on every day. I know. I've never had a TM31, so I don't actually have any like opinion about it. I do know, apparently, from what I've been told, restaurateurs love it, and they love it for a number of reasons. But I think a lot of people felt that the TM6 was a little bit too locked down for safety reasons. That whole counting down from 20 seconds if before it releases the lid for you to be able to open and then whatnot, right? But all these little things, when I go through the two recipes side by side using the same cookie dough recipe or whatever, I do find that the TM7 is more efficient in executing it. And part of the reason is because they've basically simplified the screen to some extent. Okay, it's a little bit more intelligent, it's a little bit faster, a little bit more of a smooth experience. Like I said, I kind of thought at first, oh, no dial, that's going to be a little bit problematic. But actually, now that I've used the TM7, the dial feels a little bit old school. It's like, oh, now I have to crank this and stuff like that. The TM7, you just scroll and touch, scroll and touch, right? It seems a little bit more more sleek, if you like. Yeah, I wanted to actually cook some sambal in here, but I think you kind of get the idea already. What I might do is, let me just remove, because I just realized the screen is actually back to front. I've given up on trying to get the phone to work seamlessly. What I'm going to do is actually fry some sambal overnight, right? It's a little bit late to be frying sambal, and also it takes a little bit of a time. And then I can take some photos and show you what it was able to achieve. I will ask my engineer husband to figure the repairs up to, oh my goodness, oh, sacrifice one. Don't do that yet though, only if you have something wrong with it. But I think, yeah, I'd be interested to know. I think it'll be a good gig because the TM31 is still very well loved. The TM6, like I said, it can do like 90% of the things I need it to do. It's very like, very powerful machine. My two big problems were the lockdown recipes and also the whole, the safety features. And ironically, after all that talk about the TM6 and the safety mechanism and making sure that the contents of what you're cooking cools down enough before it releases the lid so you can open it, with the TM7, the safety feature doesn't exist. You can open the lid anytime you want. So I actually did that when I was frying the crispy onion a couple of times. When I went and opened it, you can feel, boom, that's like a hot air coming through. And then it does warn you, oh, be careful when you open the lid. But obviously by that time, I've already opened the lid, not that I got burnt or anything like that, but I can see, I find it a little bit confusing why you can do it in a TM7 when you couldn't do it in a TM6, right? Because it's basically the same thing. But yeah, the TM7, you remove the lid, but it does detect it over here, whether you have the lid on or you don't. Okay, so if there's a recipe you're trying to tackle that requires the lid on, it won't work. It will tell you, put the lid on, please, sort of stuff, right? Including the open cooking, the high temperature cooking thing. The high temperature cooking thing, I mentioned that it doesn't have the splatter guard, right? Because it feels that you don't need it because the oil's not going to splatter. but I'm looking at it and thinking like, is that enough ventilation for the, the steam to escape properly? So far seems okay, but I'll report back and let you know if that's not the case, Does anyone have any questions about the TM7? I don't know if that's given you some sort of like an idea about its capabilities. Oh, by the way, I can't find the scraper for the TM7, but the scraper is like the scraping surface is a lot longer, okay, and it's a little bit it's not as angular, and it actually works a lot easier, sort of thing. So you can basically scrape almost the full length of the bowl, the full depth of the bowl, if you know what I mean. There's the old one for the TM5, TM6, and also they've got like a couple of fancy little things how you can lift up the simmer basket and all that sort of stuff using the hook feature. They're not things that I particularly care about, but yeah, so that's kind of like, I'm interested to explore how it can tackle frying sambals and frying spice paste and all that. If it can fry them well, right? Right now I'm like still testing out the high temperature, or aka browning mode function, and I'm curious to see how well it will fry up my my spice paste. I think it's a little bit of a game changer in my case, because I've always complained that 120 degrees frying in the Thermomix TM6 requires you to fry it for a long time, okay? You might need to fry it for 45 minutes or even over an hour to get it till the oil separates, because you read any Malaysian recipe, when it talks about frying the spice paste, the rempah or whatever, they always say fry until the oil separates. And if you're doing it at 120 degrees, it means cooking at much longer time.
At the time.
Or in the case, or hang on to my TM6, or in the case of like a lot of cookie dough recipes, or a lot of people who translate Malaysian recipes, for the Thermomix, they don't account for the lower temperature. So if a recipe says to fry for 10 minutes, they only fry for 10 minutes in the TM6 or TM5. And to me, that's never enough, okay? I've seen like spice pastes like fried for 5 or 10 minutes, and that's not enough. You need to fry a long time. So hopefully, in theory, the TM7 browning mode will allow it to fry faster, okay? Like I said, it caps off at 30 minutes, and it does say the most efficient frying is for volumes between weights between 100 and 250 grams, and any more than that you might be overcrowding it and reducing its capacity to brown things properly. And a lot of Western recipes, when they think of browning mode, they literally mean like cutting up some diced chicken or diced steak and then like browning it in the Thermomix, okay? And when you're doing it that way, yeah, I have to add water to get it to pecah minyak so it doesn't burn. Are you able to extend the browning? Yeah, I believe you can, Min. I believe there's nothing to indicate that it will cause any problems if you extend it, because the great thing about the browning mode, the great thing about the TM7 is that it's not locked down the way the TM6 is, okay? So to me, that's some, a bit of a game changer. But having said that, there are still a lot of things that everybody is still discovering about the TM7. I know like Westerners have their own focus as to its capabilities. So it does everything that the TM6 does, plus it's got a more efficient steamer. So that's a good thing if you do a lot of steaming, which I think, would come in handy, because like I said, one of the key frustrations with Asian cooks is that the steamer, the Varoma, is shaped awkwardly, okay? So you can't really steam a lot of Asian-y stuff in there. And also there's people would gripe about how the steam circulation is not very efficient. So you see a lot of complaints about how that steam something, even based on cookie dough recipes, that still come out like not cooked properly. And then people will say, oh, have you tried like sticking chopsticks inside the steamer to give it some, some gap sort of thing, so that you're not blocking the holes and all that sort of stuff. It just sounded so finicky. I gave up trying to steam anything in the Varoma really years ago. But the TM7 is meant to be a lot more efficient, and also it's more spacious as well, which is what you want, right? So there's that. And like I said, the open cooking mode, you know, you can potentially, if it maxes out at 100 degrees, cooking without the lid, you can still boil dumplings in it and then fish the dumplings out. You can potentially boil your onde or something like that, right? Or your sui gao and all that, and fish it out from the thing. The sad thing is the TM7 does not accept TM6 accessories. That's a good point. I'm told it does accept the cutter, but let me see if there's actually a cutting mode here. Let's have a look. So warm up, slow cook, grating, slicing, okay, let me just have a look. So this is the cutter, okay, that some people have asked me about whether they should buy one. It's actually got a shaft that should sit in there, but because the blade's the same, it should sit, okay? So it seems like it fits, right? Yeah, I don't have the shaft on me at the moment, but yeah, it seems like it should work. I'm told it does work. Okay, so if you've got the cutter, it should work. Don't know about the spiralizer. I don't actually have a spiralizer. And by the way, I found the scraper for the TM7, so you can see it's a lot longer compared to the one for the TM6 and 5. Okay, so this is the TM7s and there's the TM6 and 5s. Okay, yeah, and it does have a grating slicing function on here, so it may work. Okay, I can't test it out now because I don't have all the parts. You know what it's like after a while, your kitchen is just full of so many different bits and pieces of accessories that you lose track of what's what. Any other questions, anyone? Has this helped you to clarify the TM6 versus the TM7? And by the way, I just want to give a plug. This coming Friday, same time, 8 p.m. here, we're going to do a Zoom, but this is going to be a paid session where I'm actually literally going to teach you 3 recipes, right, that I actually use for my own business. Okay, so if you come along this Friday, you want more details, just go to jackiem.com.au/thermomix. Once I actually, let me just post this here. Why does it not let me answer to everyone? Okay, just TM, where are we? jackiem.com.au/TM7. Okay, this is not the right one, but let me just change the URL. /Thermomix, what am I talking about? Okay, jackiem.com.au/Thermomix. Okay, bad color choice. What? Change it to red. Let's see. Okay. Go and get your pass for it. And what you're going to get, apart from my personal coaching during that session, is you also get a bonus additional session the following Friday. And everything will be recorded, so even if you can't make it live, you can actually catch the replays, because you will have access to all of that along with my collection of recipes for that session. Okay, I've got to say goodbye. My lunchtime's got to start. Well, have a great day to all of you. Thank you for coming along, Bibi. I prefer to use the scraper from IKEA. Shush. No comment. Okay, let me end the broadcast here, and we can have a little bit of a talk about other points. Okay, thanks everyone for tuning in, and make sure you leave a comment, and make sure you hit me up, join my email list, jackiem.com.au/email, or if it's not too late, go and sign up for my paid workshop